There was once a man who lived in a small village nestled between two mountains. His name was forgotten by most, but his presence was unforgettable. He was known simply as the weaver, for he spent his days crafting intricate tapestries that told stories of the world, stories of love, loss, triumph, and despair. His hands moved with precision, his mind lost in the threads, but his heart carried a weight no one could see. The weaver was a man of quiet anger, a simmering rage that had no clear source. It was not the kind of anger that erupted in shouts or fists, but the kind that gnawed at him from within, a constant hum beneath the surface of his calm exterior. One day, a traveler arrived in the village. She was a woman of few words, her face weathered by the sun and her eyes sharp with the wisdom of someone who had seen much of the world. She carried a small, worn satchel and walked with a deliberate slowness, as though every step were a meditation. The villagers whispered about her, curious but cautious, for there was something unsettling about her presence. She did not seek shelter or food, nor did she ask for directions. Instead, she made her way to the weaver's home, where she stood silently at the threshold, waiting. The weaver, startled by her sudden appearance, paused his work and looked up. He felt a strange unease, as though her gaze could see the anger coiled within him. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice sharper than he intended. The woman did not flinch. "I have come to learn from you," she said simply. The weaver frowned. "I have nothing to teach. I am just a man who weaves." The woman tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You weave more than threads," she said. "You weave your anger into every piece. It is beautiful, but it is also heavy. I have come to understand why." The weaver's hands clenched into fists, the threads slipping from his grasp. "You know nothing of me," he said, his voice low and trembling. The woman stepped inside, uninvited, and sat on the floor near his loom. "I know anger," she said. "I have carried it too. It is a fire that warms you at first, but if you let it burn too long, it consumes everything." The weaver turned away, refusing to look at her. "Leave me be," he muttered, but the woman did not move. She sat in silence, her presence a quiet challenge. Days passed, and still, the woman remained. She did not speak unless spoken to, and even then, her words were few. The weaver tried to ignore her, but her presence was like a mirror, reflecting back the parts of himself he had long avoided. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, the weaver finally broke. "Why are you still here?" he demanded, his voice cracking with frustration. The woman looked at him, her expression calm. "Because you are ready to listen," she said. The weaver sank to the floor, his anger giving way to exhaustion. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The woman leaned forward, her eyes softening. "I want you to see what your anger is hiding," she said. "It is not your enemy. It is a messenger, trying to tell you something you have refused to hear." The weaver shook his head. "I don't understand," he said. The woman reached into her satchel and pulled out a small, smooth stone. She placed it in his hand. "Close your eyes," she said. "Feel the weight of this stone. It is small, but it is solid. It does not change, no matter how much you wish it to. Your anger is like this stone. It is a part of you, but it does not have to define you." The weaver closed his eyes, the stone cool against his palm. He felt the weight of it, the unyielding presence, and for the first time, he allowed himself to feel the weight of his anger without resistance. It was heavy, yes, but it was also steady. It was not the chaos he had always feared it to be. He opened his eyes and looked at the woman. "What do I do with it?" he asked. The woman smiled faintly. "You do not have to do anything with it," she said. "You only have to see it for what it is. Anger is not the problem. The problem is what you do with it. You have been weaving it into your tapestries. But you have not been weaving it into your life. You have been hiding from it. And in doing so, you have hidden from yourself." The weaver sat in silence, her words settling over him like a gentle rain. He thought of all the years he had spent pushing his anger away, burying it beneath layers of work and routine. He thought of the tapestries he had created, each one a masterpiece of color and texture, but each one also a reflection of the storm within him. And he realized, with a clarity that startled him, that his anger was not something to be feared or fought. It was simply a part of him, like the threads he wove, and it was up to him to decide how to use it. The next morning, the woman was gone. She left no note, no explanation, only the small stone resting on the edge of the loom. The weaver picked it up and held it in his hand, feeling its weight once more. He placed it on a shelf where he could see it every day, a reminder of the lesson she had taught him. And as he returned to his work, he began to weave differently. The anger was still there, but it was no longer a force to be resisted. It was a thread, one among many, and he wove it with intention, creating tapestries that were not just beautiful, but true. In time, the villagers noticed the change. The weaver's work became lighter, more vibrant, as though a shadow had been lifted. They did not know what had happened, but they felt it in the way his tapestries seemed to breathe with life. And the weaver, though he still carried his anger, no longer felt its weight. He had learned to hold it gently, to see it for what it was. And in doing so, he had found a kind of peace he had never thought possible. The stone remained on the shelf, a silent witness to his journey, a reminder that even the heaviest burdens can be carried with grace.